one. Welcome to the Hustle and Heart podcast.
I'm Mel, and this is
Brittney.
And we're with Full Circle Real Estate Group. We are realtors.
And we are going to be talking about investing today.
Ooh,
Yes.
So we'll just go into like what we got into as far as being real estate agents first, and then you obviously have the side of more so dealing with investor clients. I come from more of the side of being an investor.
Yeah. So how did you get into real estate?
I got into real estate. It was pretty much, I kind of always knew that I wanted to a little bit, just because both of my parents actually have investment properties in, throughout Michigan, and I just always watched them be successful with it, and maybe not successful, and learning from the things that they've done wrong.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty much a lifetime experience of being in that realm of things, I guess, and watching them go through all the motions with, tenants and being a landlord and fixing up properties and, managing the financial aspect of that too. So anyway, that's pretty much why I got into real estate, and pretty much why I also got into investing too. So helping people buy and sell, is really just the first snippet into real estate, and that was kind of what brought me in initially, and then I, started opening my doors up to other alternative things, like investing into actual properties myself when I could. So, that would be what I pretty much say got me into real estate.
I like it.
What about you?
I didn't originally think about real estate more than just watching like HGTV and being like, oh, that's really cool that they can do that. And I was always interested in houses, but never thought about really being in real estate. I did a little bit of everything and lived a million lives before this. And I would try a lot of different career paths. As far as I went to hair school and, traveled around the country a bit to see what I wanted to do. And as much as I loved everything I tried, I'm glad I never stuck with it long when I felt it wasn't the right thing, because when I started real estate, I immediately knew that it's what I wanted to do. Even though it was hard in the beginning and I maybe didn't make a deal as fast as I thought I would and things like that, I knew I had to stick through it. It was like a gut feeling, and I'm glad I did, because it's definitely what I was meant to do in the end. So, yeah.
Hey. Well, your gut tells you everything. So
yes.
You gotta go with your intuition, and we're glad that you ended up making that decision, because we would have never met otherwise.
Yes, exactly. I think everything's meant to be, and that's just, everything falls into place. It does in real estate too. Just
it's always what I tell my buyers.
they think something's the right, house or something, and it doesn't work out, and then the next one they're like, oh, well, we were meant to find this one, and
that one was even better. Even better than they ever could have dreamed.
I went through it myself, and I think everyone has to go through it, and they think in the time it's not right, and then it falls into place. So
I would say that was definitely my experience being a buyer. So investing into my building was backstory. I own a four-unit apartment building. I just bought that in October of last year, so pretty much I got into real estate. Well, we'll go back. I went into business school hoping to be in the realm of business management in some sort of way. So got my bachelor's degree in business management, and then right from there I went into real estate school, just to start somewhere essentially, and then got my real estate license and started helping people right off rip. I, quit my job and got into real estate full time to be a full service realtor, and I would say that kind of transitioned me into the investment side too. Obviously it helped having that kind of background and understanding, because before you get into real estate, and even taking the real estate exam does almost nothing for you in all reality, as far as knowing what you actually need to know when it comes to buying and selling a property and investing into a property. Yeah. I would say it just does nothing for you. Would you agree?
It scratches the bare minimum surface, but everything you learn in real estate is on the job.
Yeah.
Always, people that have been in it forever learn something new every day in this job. There's just
That's
always
true.
something different happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the importance of like also picking the right brokerage too, to like actually train you and, you know, introduce you into the correct topics. And, you know, the amount of times that I come across realtors, you know, maybe doing not the right thing. I'm just like, oh, you know, let's shape this up a little bit. You know, you missed a few things here and there.
Yeah.
And we get through it. But, you know, it just really speaks honestly to the standard of care that goes into real estate and really just actually knowing what you're doing.
Yes.
And how much that actually does impact your buyers and sellers and yourself personally and your reputation.
Yeah.
But I was going to go into like my investment and
Yeah, like how did you get into it as far as like approval and what made you want the kind of property you ended up with?
Yeah. Well, I would say that all kind of started with like the finance side. So, you know, first thing right off rip, I had no idea what I was doing. I really had no idea, honestly. It was more so just start somewhere and go from there. So you know, that's kind of where I think every buyer is going to be when it comes to investing. You don't really, especially like first time buyers, you know, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It really just comes down to figuring out what you're approved for finance wise. So first thing I got pre-approved and got my number, and that kind of narrowed down my pool a lot. So I would say I looked for about 7-8 months before I actually found my place, and I actually almost gave up before I got to that point. And it was literally right at that time that I was like, something just fell into place and it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, things are funny that way. And, you know, that happens with probably every buyer always. They're like, well, this one was just meant to be, you know, like you said, things fall through.
It falls into place where it's meant to be. And I think almost every buyer goes through it where they think something's going to happen and it doesn't work out, but it always ends up working out for the better.
Yeah.
But it's trying to find a way to get through that, like, devastation or confusion of hey, it's not working out and I don't know why, and then it will, and you'll understand, hey, I had to go through all this to get to where I am.
Yeah, you learn a lot as you go. And
what made you choose a fourplex, or were you looking for anything else, or you knew automatically that's what you were looking for?
So I didn't know fully. I knew I was looking for something 4 doors and under, because I was, you know, looking for residential financing, as, you know, commercial financing has a higher down payment. So that's what kind of swayed me to be 4 doors and less. So essentially 4 units and less.
Right.
Is what I mean by 4 doors.
Yes.
So I would say it really was just like the numbers that had to make sense for it. Like I could see what they were currently renting out for, and, you know, maybe that math wasn't making sense with what my payment was going to be. So that's what made a lot of the properties just automatically not work for me.
Yeah.
So it seemed like the only ones that genuinely would work for me were 4 doors, like literally 4 doors. I couldn't be 3 doors. I couldn't be 2 doors.
Right. Okay.
So
That's interesting.
I had to live, well, I have to live in one of the units.
Right.
And so essentially what I was looking for my purposes was that the 3 units that I was renting out from that was covering the mortgage.
Right. So you're house hacking.
Exactly. Yep. House hacking. So I essentially just have to live there for a year. You know, if I live there longer, awesome. But yeah. So that's essentially what narrowed down, I think, my goals of where to start, why I chose what I chose. Yeah. So 4 doors, that's what worked for me. Yeah. That was also what kind of narrowed down my pool too. Yeah. As far as like a property goes.
So. And how did that go, like getting into it as far as like renovations or being the landlord of somebody, like, or meeting tenants, things like that? Was that interesting? Or were they like, did they know going through the process of you buying the building that they were getting a new landlord and who it was and things like that?
They did know, yes. So basically, obviously, I had a property inspection done. I actually went under contract for this property before I even saw it in person. Because I was like, throw my hands up. I'm like, I'm all in on this one. Yeah. This is it. It's either this or nothing. So, Now, I wouldn't always recommend that in all
Yeah.
scenarios, but for me personally, in my scenario, I felt confident enough that I would be able to handle whatever was gonna, kind of fall in my boat. I knew they
Right.
were already rented out to other tenants. There were 4 tenants in place when I purchased the property, so
Right.
at very minimum, I knew that. So basically, they were aware inspection was a little awkward, intruding on people's lives.
Yeah.
And, that
It
can
always
just be
is.
a little strange. And, me and the home inspector are going in there, peeking through their, not their things, but, into closets to see the furnace and the water heater, and into
Yep.
rooms to see, moisture levels and if there's any leaks and, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I would say it definitely was a bit awkward. A little off-putting, I'm sure, for them. But, they were really great, honestly, through the process. And
Yeah.
as far as renovations go, it was up front. I did negotiate a little bit during inspection period as much as I could, which I'm happy with. There's things that need to be addressed eventually, but nothing I don't think that I can't handle.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of things when it comes to the maintenance of the property.
Yeah.
For reference, I bought a 1900 building in with a basement on it, 4 units, 3,300 square feet.
Okay.
So with it being a 1900 building, everything was pretty much old.
Yeah.
Ish. But overall, that's just buying a property. Any property you buy, it's going to have maintenance.
Yeah.
So
Even for our regular
Exactly.
home buyers, there's always something.
yeah,
But in particular, investors, they're looking for work.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of the time.
Would you say that a lot of your investors end up in that same scenario of finding a property, maybe negotiating a little bit, and then have a lot of work to do, or a little bit of work? What does
I'd
their
say
typical scenario look like?
typically, most of my investors don't ask for things to be done because they know they'll be kind of deep diving into the house regardless. And this is as far as flip investors, I should say. Fixing and flipping a house, they don't normally ask for things to be done because they're usually going in and doing a lot of renovation.
Okay.
I have had where there might be something where an investor knows they're not going to go in and do too much stuff, maybe flooring and painting, and say there's one plumbing leak in the bathroom sink or something. They'll say, fix that so I don't have to worry about it, and I'll just do the floor and paint and then resell it.
Okay.
So there's random things that come up like that, but for the most part, I say for my fix and flip investors, they are going in knowing what needs to be done. And I think the most important thing there is just knowing how much money that's going to take.
Okay.
So you can get the right deal and, make the numbers work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say a lot of your clients are they do the work themselves, or do they hire it out? What
I'd say a little both.
Okay.
So I've had one investor who did none of the work. So that was interesting to see that part because that's kind of where I would be if I invested in a fix and flip. I probably wouldn't be doing, maybe some things, but I'm not in there I don't have a construction background. I know, maybe interior design, but for the most part, I would contract it out. And so that's kind of what she did. Her numbers were a lot tighter because of that, because it costs a little more when you're not doing the work yourself.
Right.
But that means you just have to be a little more picky about your properties that you're picking. But I'd say a majority of my clients are construction based and know a lot of what they're doing and might have, a friend of theirs, or by friend, I mean someone that is licensed to do it, but is a friend of theirs to do, say, the electricity, or say they know how to do everything besides the roof, and then they'll hire the roof out. So for the most part, they're doing 90% of the work and might hire out 10% for something they just aren't as skilled as someone else may be, and they want to do quality work. So
Okay.
yeah, they'll hire it out some of the time, and they always look really good. I have a good handful of investors that I work with right now that I know and am proud to sell their properties knowing how well of a job they did.
Yeah.
Because I know some people out there do fix and flips, and it's questionable some of the time.
We've seen them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we've seen plenty of them. The pictures
Yeah.
look so great, and then you walk in and you're like, oh, well, there's a giant gap in the flooring here that
Yeah.
you clearly couldn't see in the photos, and then you're just like, I'm just a little disappointed now that I'm
Yeah.
at the property, seeing what I'm seeing.
It's hard because I go in thinking two things. I go in, if I see a house that I can tell has been flipped and it needs some work still, or maybe was done but looks kind of rushed or something like that, I either think this is a first-time investor trying their best to make their first one work, and maybe they didn't do everything right, but they were trying their best, and they, maybe were in over their head.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some that just rush it and don't do quality work.
Yeah.
I don't like that I don't know, because I would like to take it easy on the people that might be, doing it at first.
Right.
But typically you'll find out during inspection, because if those investors are like first time into it, typically they'll fix their mistakes. They'll be like, you're right, that part wasn't ideal, let me do that for you.
Yeah.
If it's someone that's just trying to do a quick flip, they'll say it's as is and pay for what you get, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think you'll find out eventually, but it's good to have someone that knows what they're looking for, like me and you, that have been in a lot of investments, that can tell if maybe people are trying to hide things or not.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that's kind of the most important thing, is you don't want to be tied up into a bad situation.
Right. Yeah, I would say I always try and kind of pick out those things while we're at our showing. I'm like, this is potentially an issue. This could potentially be an issue. Mm-hmm. You want to have a licensed professional obviously look it over. Just want you to be aware that, this is just what a flip, some flips look like.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So
Yeah.
just kind of, keeping it on their radar essentially, so they aren't surprised later down the road and they're like, maybe that could have helped kind of guide them a little bit more when it comes to choosing the right property too. So I think it's like setting your expectations up front rather than being like, oh, I wish I knew that earlier because I wouldn't have bought this property,
Yeah. I think we see a lot of more flips in investment properties now than a lot before. Like, it wasn't as popular as it is today. And so it's important to keep an eye out for the people that are doing it right. And who aren't.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of variance out there of, to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
But, so as far as your investment property, how would you say, if you were going to tell someone how to get into it, like different ways into getting into it? I know of a few, but you got into it just normal pre-approval, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of different types of ways, getting
Investment
seller
loans
financing, hard money lenders, seller financing, those type of things, obviously exist. A lot of the times it just doesn't truly make sense. It's a lot more on the back end to try and figure out. So I was trying to keep it as simple as I could for myself and what I knew I could get myself into.
Right.
So, it was a little weary on my end to get into something that I wasn't of full knowledge of. So that's why I went into it the regular way, the way I knew how to go about it.
Right.
So that was getting pre-approved.
Yeah.
Making sure the numbers make sense on what rent is being received and where my bottom line actually sat when I factored in my payment and, any electricity, gas, water bills, things like that, all factor in. HOA fees, making sure that the village or city doesn't have, maybe property inspections that they do.
Yeah.
Because I know, Pontiac is one of those places that they check and tailor to. They make sure, like, before a sale goes through that the property is inspected properly.
Right.
Just even through their avenues, not even my property inspection. So there's definitely like a lot of different ways to go into it. The property that I bought didn't require any of that. So I will say that was kind of a nice portion that I didn't have to kind of deal with that hurdle.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I would say it's mostly just about making sure like the numbers make sense, and obviously it's just truly your own bottom line, and also anticipating for like future needs and future maintenance that's going to be required. So
Yeah.
for me, it was just simply breaking even on 3 units because I knew I wouldn't be living in that fourth unit forever.
Right.
So eventually, once am able to rent out and can rent out that fourth unit, it'll be more of a profit situation.
Yeah.
So for me,
Makes sense.
that's where the numbers, obviously come into play. But the property I was looking for, like I said, that just kind of fell into my lap and ended up working out.
Yeah.
I was actually under contract to buy this little house, like 600 square feet, already stripped down to studs, had a roof, had the
Okay.
siding. So pretty much I was just going to go in, put everything in, walls, electrical, plumbing,
Yeah.
kitchen, bathroom. And that was the morning that I had gotten the call from the apartment building saying that, hey, our buyer backed out. We want to go under contract
wow.
with you. If you can get this written up and we can get it signed by today, we'll go forward with you. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh,
no.
I just got under contract for this other property.
Yeah.
So what do I do now? So I'm like, oh, inspection-wise, that house wasn't the greatest. I was noticing some foundation issues potentially. So what I ended up doing was investigating further into that day before I made a decision. And, what ended up making the most sense was just going forward with the apartment complex and
Yeah.
backed out of the house due to inspection and, just went forward with obviously the apartment. And, things just work out the way they're meant to.
Yeah,
It's just funny that
for
that all
sure.
happened in the same day.
So quick. I mean, I swear that's how it always happens.
It is.
It's like things happening the day before, day of closing, every single time. There's just some kind of like, oh, this could end your deal. And then you're like, okay, let's figure this out. And then it always does work out. But yeah, real estate's weird. You'll be like chilling for a long time, waiting periods. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam,
Yep.
stress, high, you got to be on top of it, boom, boom, boom. And
Yep.
then you chill for again. And then it's boom, boom, boom again.
Seriously,
it's
it is like the biggest emotional roller coaster you could honestly
Yeah.
ever be on in life.
you'd be
I
like,
feel
whoa,
like.
this is going great. Everything's wonderful. And then all of a sudden it's like, flames, put out the flames. It's like that every day. I'm like, some days people are like, oh, your job looks so amazing. You're always like happy, having fun. And a lot of the time it is. But they don't see the flames we put out on
Yeah.
like the daily basis of like, okay, I have to do this or I have to stay up till midnight, writing up this addendum or, whatever it is to fix the issue that we're having. And
I think a lot of
it's
people don't even honestly realize
crazy.
that, like, all the things that we're
Yeah.
like on the back end, we're just like this, and they're just like, geez, like just
Yeah.
consistent. We're just like, that's
see-
exactly how I want it.
They
you
see
know?
little, spikes if like something comes up in inspection and sure, but like we're like fighting for them in the background,
Yeah.
being like, no, we're not doing that. You got to have a strong negotiator on your team. And I think same goes for
And
investments
peaceful too.
or yes.
A little bit peaceful is
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah, like tough love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's
Negotiate in the most like, I'm gonna be your best friend. We're all on the same team. Let's get this done kind
Yes.
of way.
Yes.
And I think the same goes for like investments too. I think you
Yeah.
have to be a little
Lenient.
and a bit quicker
Yeah.
for investment properties because
I'll agree with that.
people like to see it get done. People that are investing or wanting to invest are wanting to move quick, or that are selling the property, investment properties. They're like, we want this gone, we want this done with. And so investments are very, I feel like, quicker paced. Maybe not to get to the closing table or anything like that, but like as far as getting under contract, and then like as far as flips go, like trying to fix them up as fast as possible,
Yeah.
Kind of thing, so that they don't, owe more money on it
Yeah.
than they want to. It's all about how fast can I get it done to make the numbers make the most sense.
Yeah.
They're trying to get as much money. They're like, hey, I'm going to spend 3-4 months fixing this property up. How much do I want to get myself paid? The more you're not working on it, the less you're getting paid, say, hourly when you break it down. is going to be a lot less, and they don't want that. So they're like, let's get this done, and then I can make the most amount in the smallest amount of time.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like I come across that too, like on a lot of the things that I was trying to get under contract for. Mm-hmm. You know, there'd be 6, 7, 8 offers on the table. It was a
Yeah.
crazy market at that time too, I will say.
Yeah.
It was like prime springtime, and everyone was selling their properties at a great price, and so I was gonna say into that I forgot. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, good. I'm so glad. What was I saying? Going under contract multiple times. What did you just say? That'll track my memory.
Moving quickly on
Yeah.
things.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, as far as like moving quickly on things goes, I feel like mostly, you know, going under contract quickly, like multiple offer situation, presenting your best offer, and ended up, you know, losing out on a few of those deals was, you know, a little obviously disappointing and, you know, upfront. I think it's like emotional roller coaster for an investor, because you're like, first time investor, because you're like, oh, I really thought I had a chance with this property. Like, this property was perfect. And then you fall in love with it first. Then you're like, all right, what? All right, step back. That is not meant to be. All right, set my expectations up. Try again.
Yeah.
And then, you know, things just do simply go quickly. And that's like obviously the part about presenting the right offer too. Like, I think that's a very important piece that we should talk about today, as far as like presenting the right offer. Like, you know, sellers don't want to do, you know, little tedious repairs that are under $500.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not realistic to even ask for.
Yeah.
And in general, you know, if it's something major, sure, ask for it. You know, even my recommendation would be ask for it financially. You're never going to recover the full cost of something that costs that much.
Yeah.
Like, you know, say a sewer line, it has a little crack in it and it'll eventually need to be replaced. It's going to cost, you know, $10,000, maybe $20,000.
Right.
So, you know, what's actually recoverable of that, as far as inspecting and asking a seller, might only be like $5,000.
Right.
So that's where I think it can be a lot for a first time buyer getting into real estate and getting into investing, where that can be like, all right, that's going to make or break my deal.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to kind of set up the expectation for as far as an investor goes.
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking that, you know, you obviously can get everything that you want out of the deal, that's maybe not a realistic expectation.
Yeah.
And knowing that, you know, there might be another buyer that's willing to go forward without negotiating on those things too. Like, I know a lot of the deals that I was making offer, or a lot of the houses, a lot of the apartment units I was making offers on, they just had like a pass or fail inspection. And
Right.
I'm like, well, that automatically makes me out, because I can't do that.
Right.
It comes down to, I want to negotiate on items if it's big enough, you know?
Right.
If it's a big item, if it's going to be over $10,000, yes, I'd like to negotiate on that. But so anyway, I ended up losing out on like 2 deals because of that, like the pass or fail situation,
Yeah.
multiple offer situation. Would you say you run into that a lot on your end with your investors, like multiple offer situations?
Yes. I think we are in the time of investors and everyone wanting to invest in the right property. And the thing is, there's a lot of investments priced right.
Yeah.
There are. But that also, they are counting on that and everyone fighting over it.
Yeah,
they
driving
like
up
bidding
activity.
wars, you know. I think what's helpful is a lot of my clients have gone in cash, and maybe they don't even have cash in pocket, but they've done like a HELOC loan, which is home equity line of credit, taking money, you know, against themselves just to be able to get that upper hand in offers. And then as far as like your end of it is, you're running probably into those people that are paying cash for things.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one too.
And it's hard to compete with. As someone, say if I was going into it, I couldn't do that. I would need to finance.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people probably watching are thinking, well, how can I get into it if people are constantly going in cash? Like the people I work with are those people. They're, you know, more experienced in life.
Yeah.
They have the money to play with a bit. borrowing from themselves. And I think that's a really good way if, some people that are, have more equity in their name want to invest. That's a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
But as far as first-time investors and, people that might be more like our age, looking into getting it and financing is just being aware that there are going to be cash competitors.
Yeah.
And things move quick. And you have to be ready to make that quick decision.
Yeah.
Or you'll lose out. Like if you're like, hey, I need a day or two to think about it. A lot of the time, unfortunately, it's not going to work in your favor to do that. The longer you wait, the less chances of you winning it are.
Yeah.
And same thing goes with like negotiating. Like if you're going to be like, oh, like I think we're going to negotiate on these small things like you were saying.
Yeah.
They're going to say, no, I have backup offers for people that are willing to do it without it. So you got to know what's important to you, like most important. Something you can handle, then forget about it. If it's something that's like, hey, this whole foundation needs to be done and it's going to be $30,000, maybe be like, well, I think that's too much for my plate. Let's move on and find something more my speed.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to find like where to draw the line in negotiating, but you have to be ready.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is just like getting in there and really making those decisions, because I've had people that have gone in and been like, hey, I want to own a duplex and I'm going to live in one side and rent out the other. But then when it comes down to it of like, oh, I'm going to think about it a day or two, and then it's like gone like that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, next one I'm going to be fast on, and then it comes and it's kind of the same deal of like, oh, well, I think, it might be worth 10 grand less, but there's like kind of a bidding war going on. I think you have to be aware enough of the climate of real estate you're in to be able to negotiate right on those deals, and or take the advice of a real estate agent that might be seeing what's going on, because right now on investment properties, I don't think I've ever gone into an investment property lately that didn't have at least a couple other offers. So as far as like, oh, hey, we're going to come in, 40 grand under asking, for this property, unless it's been sitting a while, I wouldn't recommend. A lot of the time it just doesn't. Doesn't make sense.
I think a lot of people go into, they see the investment property, they're like, okay, this place needs a lot of work. And then they're like, right, they'll offer a lot less than asking. And we're like, that the market has just changed so drastically in the past 6 years. COVID really just kind of altered everything a lot, I think. Made prices skyrocket, along with inventory that went down for a while. Like it's coming back a little bit, but still, nonetheless, there's still you gotta set your expectations properly with the market and where prices are sitting right now. I think that's like honestly a big hurdle to get over, because you're like, my payment's gonna be what a month? Right. And then they're like, okay, well, $40,000 less obviously looks a lot nicer. But then you're just going to lose out on the property. So, work with your lender. Make sure the numbers make sense. Figure out your closing costs. Figure out your payment. Like, really set yourself up that you know that you're going to have to do a lot of work on the front end. Like, I feel like people get into it and they see all these, big investors, big fancy investors that are really experienced. They're like, I'm making $20,000 a month in all my investment properties. And like, they show off all the good stuff about it. But they don't set up your expectations in all reality of like, how much goes into getting into it with the pre-approval and doing all the numbers on the back end and negotiating through the process and, dealing with repairs and inspection things. So I think if that's my biggest advice is to give to any future investor or first-time investor, is just to set your expectations. Honestly. Knowing like the price range that you're in, knowing that there's probably going to be a scarcity of them, knowing that there's probably going to be multiple offers on it, just really putting your best foot forward and doing the work in the front end that'll benefit you in the back end.
Like definitely do your homework. I would say like a lot of people don't know also about like apartment buildings and stuff is there's cash flow sheets. Or basically, what you're spending versus what's coming in.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and I've run into it a lot, is we'll look at apartment buildings or, fourplex, sometimes even up to 6 units I've looked at, that the listing price doesn't make sense for what's coming in. It does not come close to paying what the mortgage would be on it.
Right.
So if someone financed it, they need to go in knowing that they're not going to make a profit for a while until they can raise those rents, basically. Yeah. Or you try to get it lower. But sometimes they're at a standstill where the only way they'll make a profit is, listing it at a certain price. Mm-hmm. And that's when only investors that know they're going to lose money the first 3 years can invest in those properties, which is unfortunate because it should be, something that more people can get into and if they're interested in it and start a business. And a lot of the time it's the numbers just don't make sense. And I'm sure you ran into that a lot where it's like, I'm not going to come close to paying it off.
Yeah.
And not even, taking a loss on it for multiple years isn't sustainable for 99% of people.
Right.
And I think we come across that a lot. And I don't know the solution to it. I think, I
think it's just, honestly, just preparing yourself for the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I hate to say that, it really is just like, mentally prepare yourself for the worst and have backup funds. You don't just, you don't just spend every penny that you have on whatever you're getting into when it comes to your payment, prepare yourself to have, 6 months fluff of mortgage payments. Maybe that would be a good place to start and consider.
Yeah.
Because, it's definitely nothing light to get into. So I would say really just start the savings first and then go to the lender and say, hey, am I even in the ballpark of reality? Yes. And then, look at the market, look at the prices that things are selling for that, whatever investment you're looking for. And then, if those things don't all add up, maybe it's not the right time to start looking at. Or maybe start looking in fall or, even winter. Yeah. Yes, there'll be less inventory, sure, but
less competition.
Exactly, less competition too. Nobody wants to move in the winter.
Yeah.
But I was also going to talk about just rent itself and those net sheets not making sense that we were talking about as far as where your payment would be versus seeing, okay, say my payment's going to be $2,000. Yeah. I can rent out 4 of these units for only $250. We'll use that as collateral. So $1,000 total. Yeah. So let's say $1,000 is our rent, but $2,000 is my mortgage. I'm negative $1,000. That math obviously doesn't make sense. But the thing to keep in mind is, okay, 3 of these tenants haven't had a rent increase in 4 years. They've been long-term tenants, which makes sense, which is great. Yeah. But also at the same time, factor in, okay, the market's come up. These really do need rent increases. Kind of taking that into consideration on where you actually would fit in that if the rent were to be increased. Right. And that's all in the back end of figuring out, okay, hey, when did these people sign leases? Are their leases due? When I take ownership of this property, am I going to have to fulfill the rest of their lease for another 6 months? Or am I able to just say, hey, you have 30 days to either sign a new lease with $500 rent or leave in 30 days? It really does suck to have to do that to somebody. Right. Because my unit or my apartment building, I had 4 tenants in place, 4 units. So I had to kick somebody out because I had to live there within 30 days.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So
that's a tough situation. So what did you end up doing?
Well, in my justification of it, I was like, okay, there's 3 units with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Those units are renting out for more than the 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. So that was the other alternative option. And when I went through during inspection, I could see that, obviously the 2-unit, 1 bedrooms were in better condition, in better shape, and obviously rent for more. And the 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom was in pretty rough shape. So I was like, that lady in there is so nice. I felt so bad. But I was like, I just had an honest conversation with her, and I was like, look, I am so sorry that I have to do this. Yeah. But nonetheless, this is the position I'm in. This is the only way I could buy this building was if I lived here.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, your unit is the one in the worst shape. So, that math-wise made sense for me to take that unit, fix that unit up, live in it. So, I think that was a big hurdle that I didn't mentally prepare myself for, was like having to kick someone out that had been there for so long.
Yeah.
Like, that was just a terrible feeling, just something terrible to have to do to somebody.
Upside, I think things happen for a reason, though. I mean, there's no lack of 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Right.
And maybe, they were, stuck in the same thing and not living in the best condition for a little bit. And then they got to move probably into something, more updated, a little more their speed. I think it probably was blessing in disguise is, how I like to look at it.
Yeah.
But those are things that you just don't think about going into it of, or you should mentally prepare for expenses that might come up. I think as far as like, you don't need to just think about rent. You got to think about, what if this breaks? What if I get called at, 11 p.m. and no one's lights are working? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you ready to handle those things if they come up? If you're not, I wouldn't invest in an apartment. Maybe do the fix and flip route, because then you don't have anyone relying on you.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I think a lot of the time, if people aren't ready to like manage something, but they want something to work on and still make a profit, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Even finding something that needs something small, just a little sprucing up. If you're good with your hands and you want to like paint cabinets, paint walls, and redo floors, you could it's going to be a smaller profit, but you're going to spend a lot less time on it.
Yeah.
I think those are kind of easier things to just get started in. You might
start dabbling.
You might make $5,000 on the property, and that could be pushed into the next one, and then the next one. And that's kind of how people, get started in it. I think a lot of people want to go in and be like, I want to own a, 20 unit apartment building. And it's like, you got to start small.
Yeah.
Unless you have the funds for it, then, I mean, go for it. But a lot of people start small and use that investment to then invest in more. And you got to invest in yourself and your business if you really want it to work out.
Yeah. I totally agree.
I know we were going to talk about kind of more entrepreneurship. I know we're talking about other people making money on it, real estate, but we're going to talk about kind of what we like to do that's non-real estate related too. We're both kind of into eco-friendly products and businesses and things like that. What made you interested in that?
So as far as like the natural world of things, I think there's just been a lot changing in that we have this kind of like even food and healthcare system of like, let's just put a Band-Aid on it. Let's just add more, chemicals to it to keep the other things away. So I think that's just like the way things have been going. I don't know when it's actually started. I looking back into the rabbit hole a long time. But nonetheless, as I've become an adult and, going through adulthood, I'm like, why are there a million things on this box of rice?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't even know what these words are.
Yes.
So I think that's what kind of started my journey into natural things. I was like, why is this like this? And then, I'm like, what is this doing to my body?
Yeah.
So, I think classic things in our society are, we're on our phones a lot. We're on technology a lot. Our lives are a lot faster than they used to be, I feel like. And there's, just more demand to be always available, essentially, which is mentally draining. But on top of that, I think it's like a physical side too of what we're eating and how we're treating our bodies. So keeping that in mind when it comes to like mentally getting yourself into that state, it's like, okay, my brain needs to like relax a little bit, and why don't I feel like I can, just have a clear mind all the time to make all the correct decisions? And, I think it's just like brain fog even a little bit. It kind of goes into that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is this happening? I haven't pinpointed it, but I, have to assume it's like, my environment, what I'm putting in and on my body.
I think if we, break it down, a lot of things can be solved by eating natural, using natural, more organic stuff. I mean, we're in this huge consumerism wave of like overconsumption,
Yeah.
and I think everyone needs to go down to less processed foods, or at least we like to do it. People can do what they want, but
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
like
helpful as far as mental state. Just eating more natural and using more natural has helped me.
Yeah.
And so I like to talk about it as far as like, if people are like, hey, I'm not liking how I'm feeling, well, maybe try doing more of these things.
Yeah.
I know you started making some more natural things, right? Or
Yeah,
have you started?
I'm starting to dabble into it. I mean, I think really it was like starting with changing my lifestyle a little bit, and like what I'm buying, what I'm willing to buy, where I'm willing to buy it, and just supporting small local
Yep.
people around me and getting to know the businesses around me. Whereas like, I feel like it can be a little bit awkward to do those things a little bit, but
Yeah.
there is just a sense of community that I think, is necessary for all of that, and just truly having that want and need in your life. Not
Yeah.
everyone has that, and that's fine, to each their
Yeah.
own. But for me personally, I feel like it's made a big impact into my life as far as like changing my lifestyle. So yeah, that's kind of why I've gotten into, just making my own cleaners out of like vinegar and lemon, and my own laundry detergent that's natural. I've done a lot of research on the back end of that.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm starting off with like just changing the products that I'm using at first, like, not using bleach, because that's, not so great for you as much as
Yeah.
it's so widely used. I used to
Yes.
use it like crazy.
Right.
And, I think it's more so about knowing and doing the research on more things and taking the time to be more considerate of the things that you're putting in your environment. You bleach your floors. Okay, you're walking all over those floors with your feet all day long.
Yeah,
Is that
soaking into
yeah,
you, yeah.
exactly. Is that soaking into your body? So I've started like kind of altering and changing what I'm doing, what I'm eating, what I'm putting on and in my body and
Yeah.
in my environment.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of starting with it, and then we'll see. Maybe I'll get into like the medicinal side of using like herbs and making tinctures. I do that for myself personally right now, but
Right.
as far as willing to sell or do any of that, I'm not quite there yet. I want to
Yeah.
perfect what I'm doing and make sure that I'm fully confident in what I'm selling before I'm selling it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's I feel like really important topic for today, because there's just so many bad things in the environment. And I think a big part to kind of keep in mind is like being healthy and mentally,
Conscious.
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say? Like, why did you, obviously you're into that kind of stuff too. What kind of drove you into it?
I think having kids kind of drew me to it, which
Okay.
is like, I didn't think about my like own well-being a lot until having kids, which is crazy. Like I ate like everybody else, probably worse than everybody else. I have a, high metabolism. So I was like, I never worried about what I ate. I ate junk all the time. I used, Clorox all over my house, and that's what worked for me at the time. And then, I had kids, and I was like scared to give them medicine. I looked into stuff a lot more. Oh, what am I feeding them? Oh, why is there this many dyes in a food that shouldn't really have dyes? Or
Right.
If I can't pronounce something that they're eating, why are we feeding it to them? So we've kind of gone down to the basics of like how people used to eat and use stuff. Like same thing. We do like reusable paper towels at our house. We also do our homemade cleaners, our laundry detergent too, with like no scents in it. And then as far as like medicine, like we don't use it for the most part unless like really needed. And obviously I follow doctors' stuff and all of that, but like just I look into stuff more when it comes about. And same with just like products, like with like toothbrushes or like your everyday things. I've just I wasn't in a rush to change everything because I gave myself grace in that fact of like, you can't just be like, oh, one day I know everything is poison in my house and just trash it all. And so as I run out of things, I then replace them with a more conscious thing, like moving forward, thinking what's the best for the environment, what's most sustainable. I like to also like support more small businesses, whether that's online, like on Etsy where they make more natural stuff, or if I find a shop in person that, or a friend, you know, I have a friend that, you know, lives on the street that has like farm stand that sells those kinds of things. I think finding that near you, it's a lot of people are doing it and becoming more aware, and I think it's a lot more accessible now to find those things, and maybe people should just try it out and see what works for them. I wanted to make it easier for people to find those kinds of things, so I bought a website domain, which is, you'll see this is like step one of my business, so people can watch me grow as it comes about. But I bought an LLC and a website domain, hoping for one day to find, you know, I'm doing my back end research right now of like best products and things.
Okay.
But essentially like a small business Amazon type thing of what's the easiest, like how can I be like, hey, I want somewhere easy that I can get more natural stuff, because it's hard to
it is so hard
find it in regular stores. Like if you're just going to the grocery store, it's daunting, and so you just grab what you know. You know what I mean? Like it took me a long time to get out of that habit of, you know what, I'm out of it.
Convenient.
I'm out of my natural, you know, dishwashing soap. I'm gonna just grab my Dawn dish soap. You know, it took me a while to do that and get out of that. And then, but once I broke the habit, it became a lot easier. So I thought about it and I was like, how would more people want to use more natural things? And I was like, convenience is really all it is.
Convenient.
So eventually, hopefully, and even with your stuff, if, you know, selling good products on a website that makes it accessible for everyone and really easy, might help people out. I mean, if it doesn't, you know, for some people, but if it helps even one person,
exactly, it definitely will.
It's worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot more people are looking into it these days, and now's the time to kind of get into that side of business as well.
I like what you said about like giving yourself grace, because first getting into, you know, all this natural side of things myself, and I was like, just like in a hole. Like, honestly, I felt like I was in a hole of just like, nothing's good for you.
It does feel like that. It's so overwhelming at first when you sit down and actually think about it. And then you're like, and I think a lot of people I know, because I'm friends with a lot of people that think the same way as me, and they kind of went through all the same thing of like, I have to change everything immediately. And then it gets overwhelming. It's just change.
You just want to give up.
Do one change at a time that feels the most easy for you, sustainable for you, and then you'll slowly want to do more as it comes about. So I think, you know, I think a lot more people are getting into that, and if people listening are getting into that or wanting to, I think it's just pick one thing. My first thing was like, I don't want to keep buying paper towels. I was annoyed at buying them. I thought it was wasteful. And so I bought reusable paper towels, and now I make my own, and whenever they get ruined or whatever. But that was my like thing that was easy for me. But some people might be like cleaners. It's easy to make cleaners, and it's cheaper to make cleaners at home.
Honestly.
It's a very good starting point. So I think that's kind of a good place to start as far as getting into that. But hopefully one day me and you can make it a little more even easier for people to get started in that. And
I definitely hope so too.
Somehow collaborate and make that work for other people and make it easier.
Thank you for being with us today, and
the Hustle and Heart podcast.